and there was no sound. Thank you for being patient with me. It's me, Wordy Girl, and I say welcome, welcome, welcome to the stream. We are going to go over some more great leaders of their people articles because there are 325, and I'm trying to do as many on stream as I have permission to do and as I have time to do. I do see already CrazyEddie90 is in the chat, vibing with the music. Hello there, CrazyEddie. And Cedar Haunted is here. Hi. Thank you for joining me. Yes, so if you are an Anvilite who wrote a great leader of their people article and you would like me to go over that article today, please do redeem a read my article please by using one of those little wisps at the bottom under your little chat bar, and it just costs one, and that'll just put you in the queue so that I can keep track of you and just write your World Amble username there so that I can be able to find you in my vast spreadsheet. FirethornDragon. Hello, FirethornDragon, I'm sorry. Hello, FirethornDragon. Thank you for joining us today, or tonight, or whenever it is in your time zone. I am currently in the Eastern time zone, and it is 8 p.m. But it may be morning for some of you guys, and it may be afternoon for some others. Yes, so this is a great big spreadsheet, and I've already gone over, I believe, 110 articles already. CrazyEddie says Halisca Fidelis. I believe that is how you pronounce it. If that is not, please don't be afraid to let me know. Yes, 110 articles, and that's kind of shortcutting because there were about 11 of them that were access denied. Then a couple of Anvilites did say, please don't read them on stream, so I read them outside of the stream. But other than that, I read the rest of the 110 articles on stream, which was quite a lot. But yes, we will go to CrazyEddie's article first, Halisca Fidelis. And yes, Eddie says that I am correct. I will drop that link in the chat so you guys can follow along and click things that you may not be able to, that I may not be able to click. Please let me know if there's an ad going on. For some reason it looks like there's an ad or something happening. What's happening? No? If there's not, please let me know that there's not an ad so that I can continue. I do, yes, I do have something to announce. I did create a little thing that you can buy with wisps. You can buy, pause, there's an ad, which, I'm sorry, there's some little critter flying around my face. You can click, pause, there's an ad, and I'll see how that works. If there's an ad going on, it only costs 100 wisps, and you can tell me to stop so that I can not continue on and make you miss something that is happening while an ad is blocking you. That's just something that I'm trying out because I don't know how to do this ad thing where it doesn't interrupt everything I'm doing. So yeah. CrazyEddie says, I hope there are not so many errors. English is not my first language, and even with proofreading, I can't be sure. Understandable, and especially when it's not that English is your first language. That's a very impressive feat, even just writing an article in English. So I'm not too bad on the grammar and all that kind of stuff. Even people whose native language is English still do have some grammar and spelling issues and stuff like that, punctuation. So that's totally fine. It's good. I do see this is quite a long article. So if you don't mind, I will probably skim through a little bit. I see there's art here. Looks like a battlefield. There's lots going on. Fidelis, Halisca Fidelis is a scout in the Resource and Reconnaissance Department of the Human Army in Holwar. He is the third son of a third son in the highly decorated family Fidelis, a family dedicated to the military service. Not even the women of the family are in other fields of work. They sew uniforms, they craft the dyes for the uniforms, flags, crests, they work in the field kitchens or in the mobile hospitals. They tend to wounds, tents, pillows, and blankets. They even serve the officers as handmaidens, secretaries, or jack of all trades. Interesting, a whole family is into the military career. And so does Halisca Fidelis, third son of a third son. Very interesting. And it's like the storytelling kinds of narration of this article. Personal history. Halisca grew up as the third son of a third son and as the fifth child of his parents, along with 2 older brothers and 2 older sisters. His brothers had no real love for him. His sisters were the ones who loved Halisca more than enough. His family weren't poor, but also not very wealthy, so he had to work as soon as he could walk and speak more than a few sentences. He learned to craft bows and arrows at a very young age. He trained hard with one of his father's closest friends. He learned to read clues in the wild. He learned to disguise himself, to repair his gear, and to hunt. He occasionally got into more arguments with his brothers than he wanted to, ending up with more bruises than the day before. The youngest daughter, Flavia, took care of him in these trying times. The older one, Jelia, didn't have so much interest in the family affairs. She wanted to become an herbalist and was even more out in the woods than Halisca or his instructor. With the age of 16, he enlisted into the Resource and Reconnaissance Department with the intention to become a scout of His Royal Majesty. Excuse me. And then this little sidebar does tell his age, 28, blue eyes, brown, short to the shoulders, hair, tan skin, and the meters system, of course. I don't know how that translates to feet, but it's fine. The way you read is on point, says CrazyEddie. Thank you. I'm glad. Sometimes I'm like, how do you pronounce this? But I'm glad that I'm pronouncing it quite right for you. So let's see. It's not too long. I see a lot of this is just the big quote boxes. So let's see. Halisca enlisted and was trained in a rather large group of 20 cadets. He climbed the ranks relatively easy due to his training, and at the end of his 18th year of life, he was elected into the unofficial leader of his scout troop. Well, he was elected to the unofficial leader of his scout troop. Sorry, that was my error. After one really tricky assignment, they were called Cloud Spotter because they could even spot a fake cloud inside of a field of clouds. It nearly brought war to the kingdom of Holwar. But with wisdom and well-placed words, the king of Holwar, Saturio, the Grey King, could avert the war with the clans of the dwarfs. A few assignments later, Halisca was officially nominated the lead of his troop. His ways of thinking, his ideas, and his nose in terms of sensing danger or things not right make him a good scout in addition to his eyes. He was not the best shooter in the troop, but he had the best nose and could motivate his troop even when they were out of provisions. One time, they had to survive in Pisocinia. I see there is a link to this one. There isn't a pronunciation guide, but it's fine. Without reinforcements, supply drops, or wild animals to hunt. But Halisca motivated them, so they found food and water and could end their assignment successfully, even with Halisca nearly dying. He distributed his ration so that other soldiers could eat. CrazyEddie says 5 feet 7 inches in height and 165 pounds. Thank you for that translation. And the second pronunciation was right? Okay, cool. He received the White Lotus Medal, a medal dedicated to those who sacrifice their well-being and their lives. The members of his troop got the Vile Medal, a medal dedicated to those who survive in an unlikely place and fulfill their assignments without complaining. At least the higher-ups didn't hear them complain. 2 years after the incident, which created the spiral, his troop and the troops of his sister Flavia were assigned to check out the rumors regarding the spiral and report. No heroic death, just a sharp look and off you go. But every plan will crumble and fail when coming in contact with the enemy. Alright, Halisca and the spiral. I entrust you with this assignment, said the slightly smaller king with his lively gray eyes and the sharp nose of a falcon's beak. Because you have proven you're worthy, and your supervisors recommended you and your troop, he sighed. Your sister leads the other troop. I heard good things about her. She is my sister, and as good as I am, if not even better. So I heard too, the king nodded. This is top secret, my boy. I have hope you treat it that way. If you come back, we might win this war, and will not end up like poor Gencook. As you wish, my king. So that's an interesting conversation. Halisca led his troop north to evade the direct way across the Long Neck, the mountain range, and the Emerald Plains, but had to confer with a druid to get some fresh food and water, and a well-deserved rest before reaching the border of Gencook. They had to hide from flying beasts up in the sky before. He feared for his sister as they crossed the border and could see the fires and the smoke coming out of the spiral. They saw the ruins of the capital, of smaller settlements, and hid in them. Before they even reached the spiral, they got ambushed by monstrosities. 3 of his scouts were dead before they could even grab their bows. 2 others were eaten by something like a walking mouth with dozens of eyes. The cloud spotters could flee into the hills before suffering more casualties. Morale started to decrease. Not even Halisca was prepared for this. He hoped his sister would come out alive of this hellhole. CrazyEddie says, Gencook is one of the lands. They got sucked into the spiral and there's nothing left. Just some lore. Aw, man. Game over, man. Game over. Not as long as we can breathe and walk. With a little bit of hope, we will survive. Come one, the hopes of our king and kin lies on our shoulders. We can end this war. But didn't you see what has eaten Renata? She was gone in the blink of an eye. Yes, that is the fate I don't want to have our kingdom suffer. My family, my mother, my other sister, my soon-to-be wife. You have a girlfriend? No, but I could, and she could be my wife. So even in this desperate situation, it's a bit of like, I don't know if it's called comedy. It's quite dark, but it's like adding these little things into the conversation and still keep it interesting. And I guess he's hopeful for any person in the kingdom who could be his wife, and he doesn't want them to get eaten. Halisca and his troop gathered what they had and headed for the spiral, losing more and more members. One cut his throat after being bitten by a small demon. Oh man. They reached the spiral after 2 weeks of playing hide-and-seek with flying, crouching, limping, and walking demons. Some more human than Halisca thought. Even beautiful men and women were amongst them. Oh man. So they were going into the giant crater, filled to the brim with builders of the demons, building new homes and warehouses at the sides of the dwindling roads, leading deeper and deeper and deeper into the earth. Smoke was rising from beneath, and they saw Garladins fighting against some beasts, supported by the troop of his sister. With panic in his heart, cold still on his mind, and fire in his blood. Interesting wording. He led his troop against the ambush, rescuing his sister, a few of her troops members, and the Garladins, sorry. Don't know how to pronounce that one. It was this moment where he fell into love with this Garladin, a purple-bluish one with the name of Morchana. They ran, they fought, and they ran, leaving Genguk with a book full of notes, roads, small entrances, and their observations. The king was satisfied and worried as he read through the observations. He grieved with both of the leaders and brought back Halisca before the council, where he told his observations again and again and again. After a few weeks, the kingdom of Holwar raised an army so strong it would march through the Emerald Plains if Halisca hadn't advised otherwise. He was elected the leader of the scout troops and fought in first row when necessary. He wasn't aware of this, but he and his actions let loose the most brutal and hardest fought skirmishes this time has ever seen, not including the first siege of the Spiral. Halisca was brought before the king and sent out to the dwarfs. He even cooked the dumplings for the dumpling exchange. There's a link to that. Dumpling exchange sounds really fun. On his own, he was sent to the elves, to the Garladons. Oh yes, I see. For explaining the Garladons. Just as it is written, no special pronunciation. Hermaphrodite species, beautiful and powerful light sorcerer. So he was sent to the elves, to the Garladons, where he met Morchana again, but this is a different story, to the underlings, and to the orcs. He brought with him the heaviest, strongest, and largest army of the continent of Korea has ever seen. The second siege of the Spiral, years later, with the funding of the Electoral Congregation and the Black Fortress Sentinels, not counting the mortal gods, this was an event later down the line, was only a success because Halisca Fidelis had spotted clouds where there were normally no clouds, and Halisca Fidelis, third son of a third son, now leads an entire army to bring the times of war to an end, side by side with his king. Why should we trust this boy? Because I say so. Because he has seen more horrors of blood and death as everyone in this room combined. Because he lost more men and women than we lost kids. But that is not a good reason. No offense, my king, but he could have killed himself then. Or it was a normal ambush. An ambush, the king chuckled. My dear Ulbrich, I hear you don't trust this boy. This man. So, as my financial minister, I would suggest that you prepare your carriage and take a look for yourself. I trust him, mumbled the military minister into his short gray beard. The way he describes it makes it look really believable. See, Ulbrich screamed. He has good imagination. My sister was there, grumbled Halisca. The king shook his head, but Halisca ignored him. Do you really believe I would walk thousands of kilometers with sore feet and nearly nothing to eat or hunt, killing my own friends and even kill the members of my sister's troop and a whole bunch of Garladons so I can craft a story for my return? Where no honor, coin, or songs are to gain but a bloody welcome and harsh words while you are sitting on comfy chairs, eating the finest chicken and drinking the best there is to drink, and farting like the good old nobles you are? Silence. This silence was so thick even the insects of the garden flew meters away were silent. See? The military minister smiled. Honest words, spoken in honest rage. I trust him. And I even know his sister. She reported nearly the same story. You don't have to believe me, or my words, spoke Halisca, but you believe in my love for my king, for my family, and my sister. I do not want them dead, chewed by demons, ripped apart or carried away for unholy reasons. Trust me in this. Ulbrecht nodded. I do not trust you, but I trust my king. You get the gold. Begin to raise the army. So that is an interesting article and an interesting conversation. Thank you, CrazyEddie, for sharing this article. If interested, the sieges of the Spiral are covered in the article Times of War, including Halisca. Thank you for sharing that part too. That's why we like to see different little articles that are being linked. So, yes, so that was quite a long article, but it's fine. It's good. I would say a lot of these things I see one of the things I would say, that was an interesting story that held our attention. CrazyEddie says, you are welcome. You did a great job in reading it to us. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed. Johe is here. Hi, everybody. Hello. Thank you for joining us. We are reading through some articles. So yes, my advice to you here, it was a very interesting article. I do see there's no character portrait, but that's okay. I would just suggest maybe lengthening the sidebar a bit by maybe putting the article block 2, Times of War, or something like that, in the sidebar. You can also use some of these, like this long conversation here. We can maybe move that to the sidebar so that it can kind of match the length of the body, instead of there just being like a blank nothing over here in the sidebar. We can move some quotes to the sidebar and stuff like that. That would kind of, you know, make things even. But yes, other than that, thank you for this article. It was quite entertaining and it was very interesting. And yeah, there were a couple of, you know, grammar errors, but it was nothing that wasn't expected. So you did an awesome job in writing this article in English. Thank you so much, CrazyEddie, for sharing that one with us. If you are just joining us, I am reading Great Leaders of Their People articles by some Anvilites. CrazyEddie says, Times of War now linked. Have fun with it. You're welcome. Thank you for linking that. But yeah, I'm not asking you guys to make edits immediately because I do know there's a judging period and stuff like that. But yes, when you can just add those little things. I'm just giving some slight advice to it. Portrait is coming. Not sure how he looks at the moment. That's totally understandable. You have a good description of him, his eye color and his hair color. So, you know, you don't have to necessarily have the art portrait, but that's good enough. Colonel is here. Hi, Wordy Girl. And guys, quick stopover before going to bed. Hello, good evening, Colonel. I know it's quite late for you. Thank you for stopping by to say hello. I appreciate it. CrazyEddie says, thanks for feedback. Thank you so much for allowing us to read it. Now, if you're just joining us, please do redeem a Read My Article so that I can find your name in my spreadsheet from World Anvil. Joey, I do see that you yeah, Cedar Honnet says, why bed to Colonel? And that's because it's 1:30 a.m. over there with Colonel. CrazyEddie says it's 2:30 here. Is that AM or PM? Oh man, thank you for joining. Wow. So yeah, everybody in all different time zones are joining. So I appreciate you guys, and I do understand if you guys need to leave for any reason, especially if it's 2:30 a.m. CrazyEddie. I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate you joining. But yeah, you guys do need to get some rest. What was I doing? Is it Colonel says gotta go? Eddie, you should already be in your bed. Yes, true. Bye, Colonel. You have a blessed night. Thank you so much for stopping in. Who is this? Joey. Yes, Joey, could you please give me your username for World Anvil? Because I do need to find you in the spreadsheet. And anybody else, if you would like me to read your article, please put your World Anvil username so that I can find you in the spreadsheet as well. Yes, we'll do it. If you have any questions or want a bit more lore, just write me. Have a blessed day. Where to go? Yes, you as well, CrazyEddie. You have a blessed one, and get some rest. It is so late for you. Oh yeah, it's just the same one, Joey. All right, great. Got it. Okay. There we are. All right. I'm going to put this in the chat. Alright, have a blessed one, CrazyEddie. Thank you again. Alright, so here is Johe's article. Nmenarghe. Not sure how to pronounce that. Hopefully there is a pronunciation guide. If not, it's fine. There is, but Nmenarghe. I don't know how to pronounce this little these characters. I'm sorry. I do see, yes, it is in a different language, I believe. Is this? Yes, alright. So, once again, Google Translate, I know, is not the best. But it's a handy little tool that you can right-click and instantly, bada bing, bada boom, pow, the whole article has become English. So if some things don't translate over well, I apologize, but you can feel free to let me know in the chat if something is weird or different. I'm just going to try my best to do this with Google Translate. So let's see. I am the strongest here, a deep voice was heard exclaiming above the noise of it all. I will face you, child. I'm still not quite sure how to pronounce this name. You can use this to the pronunciation. There is a oh, okay. This here.
Mmenarghe.
Mmenarghe. Okay, thank you. I appreciate you adding that helpful link. That's a nice one. Teacher Jeannette says, World Anvil was auto-translating, and now it has stopped. Oh. Well, if you see on here, it is translated. It's just that some of these words are like their names. So those kinds of names don't translate over. But yeah, most of the page has translated. Oh, you're saying World Anvil was automatically translating things? I don't know if actual World Anvil was doing it, but I do know that in browser, it was supporting Google translating it. So I'm not sure if World Anvil site does allow that, like, to just happen naturally, or if it's Google that's doing it, because my browser is doing it. But yes, let's read. Mmenarghe. I'm the strongest here, a deep voice was heard exclaiming above the noise of a doll. I will face you, child. Mmenarghe snorted as he urged his rhino forward. He raised his great sword above one of the huts, waving his shield, kicking up dust on the floor. Brave little human, you will not die today, he exclaimed as he charged like an avalanche. I'm not sure if he meant you will not die today. I don't know who he's talking to, because like I said, translation not going to do the best here, unfortunately. If you'd like to explain some things, please do. Feel free to do so in the chat. Species, attack troll, ethnicity, Helpnima, Mina. And then there's height and tons. Whoa, is this a picture of it? By Johe. Mmenarghe, moments before adding what he calls a small greatsword to his collection. Oh man. First line is, I will face you, creature. Okay, I understand. So child somehow went to creature. But yeah, it's okay. That's why I said Google Translate is not the best, unfortunately. But I'm going to try to read what I can through this article. I'm already going to say that it's good how there's a little sidebar here, and then there's a little quote here, and then the full width art is here. And then there's a little switch sidebar here on this side, and then this is here. And like the layout of the article is interesting, and it doesn't leave many blank spots. Maybe we could just put like one more article block here, or a piece of art here, and then everything would be perfectly, you know, laid out, where it's not so many gaps and stuff like that. But I do appreciate how you have this article laid out, and it's not just a blank sidebar. So that's interesting. Origin. Like almost all attack trolls, Mmenarghe was born in a laboratory, specifically that of a cleric, Sacrigalia, who had his workplace in a set of caves under the deep forest. In a raid on Forest Troll village by the cleric, he was followed to the lair when they hunted him down and found little Mmenarghe still growing in a large glass container and immersed in a bluish liquid. So interesting, he was kind of created. After being rescued, the little troll was raised as one of the village in the middle of the forest. He learned everything about those who were now his family. However, as he grew older, it was evident that Mmenarghe didn't have the ability of his brothers to climb and cross from one tree to another, but he compensated for it with superior strength. His arms were thicker than normal, and he began to grow beyond all possible measure until he was taller than any of the tree houses of the village. Interesting. Johe says, when I write the article, the War Troll article, I can put the block. Yeah, that's a good one. Soon he was taken to hunts by the best archers of the village, taking advantage of the fury with which Mmenarghe fought. They considered him another of the wild trolls, but Mmenarghe did not fight like any other brute. He learned from his shortcomings, and if in a day of hunting had spoiled everything by making a lot of noise, then he would seek to adapt some footwear to reduce the sound of his footsteps. With this, he was improving little by little, but constantly. That was good. He didn't just make mistakes like a big brute. He actually learned from what was going wrong, and then he, improved next time. He earned the respect of his entire village. The day he fought a hydra that appeared in his forest, wandering from the north, several of the archers had been easily defeated, and the creature was very close to the first houses, which although located high up in the trees, they could be easily reached by the tall monstrosity. The troll fought intelligently. Seeing that two heads replaced one they cut off, he focused on the softest parts of the body. That is how, imitating a puma that he had seen subdue an elk, he attacked the hydra. Oh, wow. That is an interesting way that he attacked the hydra. By sensitive parts. Yes. So that was smart of him. He's not just a big brute that's just fighting and just going. He's very strategic. And that was an interesting way to defeat the villain there. So yeah, we will go scroll a bit through. There's lots of details about this character, which shows how great of world building this is, and how you were detailed not just in the character, but in the world. And there's lots of lore. Johe says, just like the wild dogs or hyenas, eat alive their prey. Yes. So he was very smart. So instead of it just being like a big, Hulk kind of character that's like very naive, but he just, beats people up, he actually learns, and he's an intelligent fighter, which is interesting about him. So, I see they left the deep forest and climbed the mountains of the mountain range known as the Giant's Belt. A group encountered some mountain trolls who attacked them without a word. In the middle of the combat, Tulu realized that the creatures they had part of the brain exposed and metal parts embedded in it could be seen. In addition, their behavior seemed that of a threatened animal. Mmenarghe agreed not to kill them all and followed one of them once he woke up from unconsciousness. So they went to the lair. They followed it to the lair of a fire giant, which had enslaved the trolls and used them for their own benefit. Mmenarghe didn't see this as something honorable. He killed the giant with the help of Tulu. He managed to free the mountain trolls, and a dozen of them decided to accompany Mmenarghe and swear allegiance to him until death. In this way, their group increased, and as they advanced in the mountain range, they faced some communities where Mmenarghe asked to fight with the strongest of the place Then, without killing him, if it was not necessary, he subjected the community to give him food and other objects that were necessary. And then they left to continue their journey. That was how some other humanoids followed the leading troll on his way. Around 2275, the 8th epoch, Mmenarghe found out that the elf he thought was dead was still alive and that they called her Thedenka. However, he considers that she was already defeated and is oblivious to what happens in the deep forest. So his group, known as the Bantu Nmina, did not take sides in this situation, known as the Nemesis of Winter. So they're very interesting characters, very interesting lore. There's art, it's credited. The formatting is quite nice and is switched up. It's not just a big word wall. It's kind of like a newspaper, how there's a sidebar here, there's this there, there's this there. It's a bit, it's very interesting to keep up with the story, the character, and even some of the, little interesting bits of the story. And it was told like a story, instead of just being just a fact sheet telling all about the character. So thank you for sharing this article. And yeah, I do know that it probably would be more beneficial to read it in native language. Unfortunately, we have to rely on Google Translate. But other than that, thank you. That was quite an interesting article to read. The only advice, like I said, would be to link some more things, but like you said, it's probably not done. The some of the articles probably aren't done. That's okay. But when they are done, like, you can maybe just link one in that sidebar there, and you'll be good to go. Thank you, says Johe. I appreciate you sharing. Translate is a way we can read each other's jobs. Yes. Translate is a great way we can read each other's work, and even though it doesn't necessarily translate exactly how we wanted to, at least we can kind of get the picture. And I got the picture of the character, and I can understand that he's an intelligent fighter. He's not just a big brute that just beats and smashes. So that was interesting, and how it showed that he was a great leader of his people. So thank you once again for that. If you are in the chat and you would like me to read one of your articles, please do read my article, please, with one little wisp. And yes, once again, thank you to those who have already redeemed one. Next, I'm going to probably read some of these articles in which the authors were not able to join us. So there's Kersil Selen. Kersil Selen? I'm not sure if that is how you pronounce it. Kersil Selen. And this is quite a long article, but we can skim through it a bit. We will do this one first, and I do see that FirethornDragon has redeemed an article read as well. I will get to you right after this. First off, we do see some art here. Unlikely allies, Captain Argus, Malitora, and Taluk'okt. I don't know exactly how to pronounce some of these things. Well, this is interesting already because this article is covering 2 people as opposed to just one person. So this is Captain Argus. He's a very well-known captain of the Ethosian military and was in charge of the 1st Legion for a large portion of his career. He grew up in Capita Emporio to a military family with several generations on both his mother and father's sides, having held prominent titles during their lives. As a child, he was expected to live up to these standards and was given a strict education and was enrolled in the Capita Emporio Military Academy when he was 12. Malitora, as a young adult, was quiet and tended to listen to conversations more than he spoke in them. Some would call him calculating, believing he was plotting something all the time. Interesting. So then they go down to Chieftain Taluk'okt. Taluk'okt was born to a small tribe of about 30 in the southern plains that stretch across the borders of Helin and Kasare. He and his tribe grew up as one of the pacifist tribes of Orcish people. Simple people that just tried to stay out of others' way and live peaceful lives. Living off the plains, hunting and gathering everything they needed and staying away from humans and their settlements. Though their lives were not always easy and could become difficult, not for a lack of prey or fresh produce, but due to the frequent travelers between Kasare and Helin. So yeah, there's a little tidbit about each of these characters. Then the summary of the whole article says, 2 unlikely allies from vastly different births and backgrounds came together in order to find the best path for their respective people. Captain Argus Malitora, a lifelong military man from the Republic of Ethosia, Chieftain Taluk'okt, an orc from Helin, who lost his family before finding a new one with Utukaseg and traveling across the continent to find a new home for his people. These 2 leaders helped calm a situation nicknamed the Passing Horde, and there's a link to that, from escalating into violence, and instead put aside their mutual distrusts and guided both sides to a peaceful resolution. So then there's a little sidebar description of both of them. Argus is of course human, 5'1", 185 pounds. Taluk'okt is an orc. He is 6'4" and 260 pounds. And then I see that Nee has put some article blocks here in the sidebar to keep up with the rest of the article, because there's quite a lot of words and quite a lot of lore here. And I do see that they decided to work together for a common goal, which is interesting. One of the most interesting things about this is this kind of challenge was supposed to highlight one character, but this one did highlight 2 characters, and that's a very interesting thing. So I do see that we can just read the end when the safe passage of the Utukaseg is I cannot pronounce this, that's another thing. Utukaseg was completed. Taluk'okt reiterated his people's passive and peaceful nature and of their intentions of keeping to themselves fully once they entered the valley. He told Malitora that he likely would never speak to him again, and that was likely for the best. Ironically, this latter point would be a lie, and Taluk'okt and Malitora still keep in regular contact. Now, 20 years after the incident, Taluk'okt is once again chief of a tribe of orcs within Ramular, and acts as one of the nation's most trusted spiritual advisors. His family has grown once again, and he has settled down with a wife and has several teenage children. So this tells a very interesting story. There's lots of lore in this world. There's lots of links to other articles where we can learn more. I do not see, though, crediting to the art. I assume this is probably Art Breeder. Not sure. I don't know what this comes from. I could almost think that it could be an AI generated art. Not sure. But I do see this right here, and I wonder, is that a signature? So I'm not sure about the art, but I would like to know more about this art, and it would be great if Nee could credit the art, as I do not see any credits of the art. Yeah, so other than that, yes, it's quite a long article, and if you'd like to read the rest, feel free to go ahead and click that link in the chat, but for now, we will leave it at that, and thank you to Nee for sharing that one. Next, we do have FirethornDragon. If you are still here, FirethornDragon, I can move on to your article. There we are. FirethornDragon. Are you still present? Hopefully so. Yes, you are still here. Great. So I will put the link to that in the chat so that you guys can read along with me. Just in case there are any kinds of links and things that you want to go ahead and branch off to, you will be able to branch off to them at a later time or right now. I'm trying to keep myself organized with this spreadsheet. Okay. Grosava, Oathwatcher. Grosava, Oathwatcher. I don't know if that's how to pronounce it. If that is not, please let me know. Grosava, Oathwatcher. Svenska. Written by FirethornDragon. Alright, so I do see that this also needs to be translated. And I apologize if the translation does not quite do your article justice. So I see that it's Swedish. It's translated from Swedish. Okay. Guardian, diplomat, legend, Grosava, Oathwatcher. And there's a little portrait of her. This looks like it might be an art breeder. Okay. Grosava was born in Izia. She grew up as an orphan and was raised by her grandmother who lived near the coast. When Grosava turned 5, she was proposed with Izia's traditional seafood soup. And there's a link to that. All day, the people around the village Grosava and her grandmother lived in asked if she showed any signs of fire magic. For several generations in Izia, no fire mages have been born, and many began to lose hope in the prophecy, and those who have been born have mostly disappeared. Now, FirethornDragon says that's a typo. I must have changed the place on the letters I and R for the Swedish word to celebrate and happened to write propose instead. In Swedish, the spelling of the two words is very similar to each other. Very understandable. In English, some words that look like they're similar and they have totally different meanings. So then when it translates over, it's horrible. But it's okay. So she was celebrated. She was celebrated when she turned 5 with the traditional seafood soup. That makes sense. So they celebrated with this good soup. And there is a link to it so we can figure out way more about that soup. Sounds good. Yes, Grosava's grandmother made Grosava promise her never to tell anyone about her fire magic. Grosava didn't know it at the time, but her grandmother tried to protect her from the guards and soldiers of Rahagos, who are still searching for children and newborns with fire magic. This is what got Grosava's parents killed when she was a newborn, because the soldiers were convinced that Grosava would become a fire mage just like her father, who was a Melend mage from the Magic Council. And there's a link to the Magic Council. This led to their deaths, but Grosava managed to escape with her grandmother and grew up with her until she was 5. This is an interesting article. I like the look of the world. The font is big and nice and able to be read. The art is nice. And there's a crest by Charlotte S., so it's properly credited. We have Legends Are Made, which is a song by Sam Tinez. And that is a good addition. I like when you put songs and things into the article. This little sidebar also tells a lot of cool little things about the character. Blue-gray eyes, red hair. And yes, I see the portrait does show such. Let's see. After Grosava celebrated her 5th birthday in the traditional way with the village, she and her grandmother went back home. There sat a woman from the Magical Council. The woman turned out to be her father's sister, Ava Oathwatcher. The rest of the day, Grosava celebrated the day with her aunt and grandmother. At the end of the day, they came to the decision that Grosava will live with Ava from now on because her grandmother has become ill. So at dawn the next day, Grosava left Isaiah with her aunt Ava for Croydon. Education at Felville. Grosava began studying at Felville Inn, and there is a link to that, Felville School of Mages and Guardians, at the age of 11, just like all the other mages at Croydon and around Oran. She quickly rose through her classes in history, politics, languages, and strategy. She wasn't always the most skilled in battle, but she was always adept in using her surroundings to her advantage. She knew how she could lead a group in battle into victory during her training through strategy and planning. She spent most of her time studying, and when she learned about Isaiah's history and the fire elf prophecy, and there's a link to that, the fire disease, link to that, she decided to pursue a degree in diplomacy. She graduated at the age of 17 with her team and was chosen as team leader during Crystal Day. After speaking with the Overlord, her team, and her master, Aunt Ava, she decided to travel back home to Isaiah, a decision she never regretted. So then there's lots of information about how she went back to where she returned to her homeland, and she realized nothing had changed. It's very interesting. And she helped to lead her homeland, I suppose. And they had parades in her honor to celebrate independence. And they added an extra arrow to their flag to symbolize their new capital's name, which they named Grosava after Grosava herself. Since the rebellion, Grosava was seen as a leader among her people, and she still does so several centuries after her death. They have erected statues in her honor, written storybooks about her, history books, and how she negotiated Isaiah's independence is taught in schools around Oran that graduate a diplomat. She is also celebrated by fire elves and an example of how one can actually be celebrated in history despite their culture seeing fire magic as a disease and curse. Grosava herself never believed that she was the fire elf from the prophecy. She believes more in creating your own destiny into conditions, but the people of Isaiah believe that she is the fire elf from the prophecy, and that's how they tell the story. After she gained independence for Isaiah, she stayed a couple more years in Isaiah to help rebuild the community. After that, she decided to settle permanently in Isaiah again and lived there until she died. Her team lived there with her and helped her, but they also traveled around Oran on other missions, sometimes in the area, but Grosava related only to Isaiah. So this was a very interesting article, a very interesting character, and the layout is pretty neat. There are links to lots of things that we would love to learn more about, which is awesome. I would just say, to extend the sidebar a bit, you can add some article box, like the Fire Elf Prophecy. You can put that over here in an article block form instead of just a link with words, just the block, so that it can kind of fill up this sidebar and have, the people of Isaiah. You can put that there, stuff like that, just to fill up the sidebar. So there's not like a naked place here. But yes, other than that, a very interesting story that holds your attention. Interesting art, the color scheme of the world, and it's just very, like, this image here is also very relaxing, and like the background image that you use, it's very nice. And I do see that it is credited all content unless otherwise noted. Credited to FirethornDragon. Cover image by Charlotte S. And portrait image by Charlotte S. So that's great. I appreciate you sharing this article. Thank you so much again. Yes, so if you are just joining us, we are reading some other great leaders of their people articles. And if you'd like me to read yours, please do post in the chat and use one of the redeem read my article please little wisps, so that I can keep your name in the queue. Now, I will probably have to go in a moment, But we can go and do Empress Jeannette by Flyteach, because Empress Jeannette is by Flyteach, and Flyteach is not going to be able to join us live. But oh, did we do this already? Unlikely allies. Oh no! Okay, so I see what I did. I said we went over Kersil. We did not. We actually went over Unlikely Allies by Captain Orthais. And then we did not go over by me. Sorry for that mishap there. So what we're going to do is not go over Empress Jeannette, because I guess my spreadsheet was all messed up. This Unlikely Allies was not by me at all. This was by Orthais. And this was a great layout and everything, but I was addressing the wrong author. This is actually a different person. Let me go ahead and put that in the chat before that gets messed up. That is by the author Orthais. And yeah, we actually already went over this one. We did not go over Kersil Selen by Nee, which I already put in the chat earlier today, and that was not the right article. I posted the right link and the right title, but it wasn't the right article. So now we are just going to do that one more time. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I accidentally said the wrong person. And I'm like, that was not what we were looking at. Okay, so Kersil Selen, leader of a proud people. Clover Chief Kersil Selen, aka Kurs. Kersil Selen is a well-respected and well-liked figure in the community of Clovenlev. He is the leader of the town, which is situated in the mostly uninhabited Clovendal in Ashildr. So, 67 years old, brown eyes, light brown hair, light tan skin. Very interesting already world design, color scheme, and the CSS, custom CSS of the codex like this, and the little scrolling bar and things are very interesting. Life of a leader. Coming from a small but financially stable family, Kersil had a relatively normal childhood growing up in Clovenlev. His everyday life closely resembled that of other kids around him. Life in Clovenlev differed a bit from other towns in Ashildr due to its remote placement and lack of influence from the government. He spent most of his formative years learning the way of life in the valley, receiving education and helping out his family and neighbors with the crops. However, being a farmer was not what he wanted out of life. He had a dream from when he was a young child of becoming a valley warden, and there's a tooltip and a link to what that is, and protecting the town from monsters and the like! Exclamation point. Very exciting. He went into training to become a warden and was taken on as an apprentice at the age of 16, which is the age limit set by the wardens themselves. He got through the education at a decent pace and became a full-fledged warden when he was just shy of 20 years of age. It was said that he handled I think it's saying he handled his warden initiation night, and there's a link to what that is, very well, and that some of the wardens were impressed with him. Becoming Clover Chief. As his life progressed, he made his way up the ranks as a warden and in the community. He became known as a helpful and kind man who helped where it was needed. When he was 39 years old, he was elected as the town's Clover Chief and has been re-elected every term since. He is hailed as a wonderful and inspiring leader and as a kind human being. And there's a quote. He's one of the greatest people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing That's right. Kersil is a most wonderful man, but of course you know that already. Everyone in town knows that he's done so much for his lovely community. And that's an inhabitant of Clovenlive. And there's a link to what this is. Even though it didn't show up properly, there's a little thing here. But it's a link to it, so that's good. Resolving grave conflict. One of Kersil's most notable moments as a Clover chief came just 1 year after he was sworn into office, the first time during the Fae incident of 1557. And there is a link to that. The Fae had discovered that a human town had been built where they had carried out the signing of the Treaty of Clovendal. This was an important event for the Fae as it ensured peace between them. In a moment of rage, the Fae decided to attack, partly due to the location and partly because the Fae were still furious about the human assassin who killed their first Arch-High Fae. Kersil managed to talk down the angry leaders of the attack, and in the end, his diplomacy earned Clovenlive some respect in the Fae world. And I see there's lots of good little article blocks here on the side, and I think that maybe adding just one more article block or a piece of art or a quote or something like that will just make this very even, and then everything will be great. I like how this is linking to a lot of things that we would love to know more about. The look of everything is smooth, the colors are nice, the font is nice, and it told a nice story. It was short to the point, and yes, I appreciate this article. So thank you, Nee, for this article. And sorry once again to Orthais. Not sure how to pronounce that, but this is Orthais' article. This is not Nee's article, and I've got them mixed up. I apologize once again. But both articles were very interesting, neat. The layouts were pretty cool. And yeah, thank you to both of them for sharing their articles. And now we have read them both. If you are lurking in the chat and you would like me to read your article, please do let me know. I'm going to move on now to Empress Jeannette by Flyteach, which I was about to do before I realized that I accidentally said that Nee wrote an article that Nee did not write. Hopefully this is correct. Alright. Empress Jeannette. Interesting world already. A very short article. The Empress Jeannette Floridian Montserrat. Physical description. General physical condition. Jeannette is medium to slightly short, pale skin, brown face, but extremely active physically. She will conduct meetings and conferences while performing walking, which also seems to stimulate her mind with new ideas. Jeannette is a highly trained psionic empath. She is able to tell when someone is not being truthful or forthright, and has been known to call that person out when she wanted to make her point of working towards the better good. In general, this isn't an issue with her constituents, but for those who haven't had previous contact with her, it can be painful if one is trying to hide something. Empress Jeannette was born and raised on Gale. A natural empath, she saw the hardships of life on a highly populated world, and began work to better the conditions of the inhabitants at an early age. Where her family had been more nonchalant when she was crowned empress, she began a campaign of bettering the lives of everyone on Gale. She set up discussions and conferences, most especially with the subsector capital on Frank system. During her 30-year, so far, reign, so she's still reigning, the starport has been upgraded from Class D to Class C. Technology increased from TL8 to TL10. Population has increased about 20%. And overall quality of life has increased. The addition of a ranger base has also helped to increase information exchange with the greater cluster community. Jeannette was educated by local tutors until she became Empress, when she expanded her educational outlook to embrace some of the local worlds with similar cultures or issues, such as Frank, Kina, Rosemarie, Haydn, and Rin. She has not been afraid to limit herself to interstellar boundaries. Jeannette is smart and highly educated, despite her early education being limited to her home world. So very interesting character who loves to learn, loves to get in, loves to explore, loves to help her community. I can tell already, even though there's no character portrait, there is a description. Brown eyes, dark brown hair, pale skin, but also a description of her personality. And I can tell what kind of personality she is, and that's really neat. I would suggest maybe putting some things like Frank system, like a little article blocks in the sidebar. Ren, maybe. And I saw another thing that you could maybe link. Those kinds of things. Just link some, maybe a quote from her, or a couple of article blocks to help this sidebar not be naked and to even out with the body of the text. But other than that, yeah, pretty neat article, short to the point and very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing this world as well. It looks like a sci-fi world, and I like the feel of it, the coloration and everything. Thank you for sharing. And that was Flyteach. Okay. I do think that I see that the Deathly Rebel 16 has redeemed a read my article, please. Thank you so much for showing. Celestian Nightmare, I believe, maybe. It's transposed a bit. But thank you. I will try to search you in the spreadsheet. There we are. Celestia Night It's like Nightmare, but it's transposed. But I'll just call you Celestia if you don't mind. I will put that link to the article in the chat for Dr. Kira Grace, so that you guys can read along. There may be some things that, some links that you want to go to that I can't go to on the stream right now. This is quite a long article, so it may be great to, you know, go explore some on your own time. Unfortunately, I might not be able to read this whole thing, but I hope you don't mind me skimming through a bit. Kira. Yep, Kira Grace. I thought so. Walking away from boisterous events seems to be my best choice, for reasoning and wisdom must always prevail. Romeo de Lavelle, a wise choice. Interesting. Dr. Kira Lotus Grace, aka the Willow Wolf. Dr. Kira was one of the major scientists that had a hand in creating the Noctis, species of sentient beings that are half human and half demon. They did this in order to turn the tide of the war revelation, a war against the very depth of hell itself. Dr. Grace is also the founder of the Black Roses and was the director of the organization for almost 30 years after its founding. Dr. Grace is considered by many to be the first Noctis. Interesting. There's a family tree here, which I love family trees embedded. So we have here Love Knight, Stephen Silvermoon, Sophia Black, James Black, Charlotte Grace, Dean Grace, Felicity Grace, Jaden Grace. Then we have Caitlin Grace and Dr. Kira Grace, with interesting portraits. I believe these are probably from Art Breeder. Not sure. Like I said, it's quite a long article. Trying to see if there are any credits to art. I don't see any credits to art. I would like to have more credits to art. Kira was a tall woman with long limbs and an athletic build. When she became a Noctis, she gained wolf ears and tails and fangs. Her eyes sometimes glowed an eerie golden color in the dark. Kira's most identifying feature were the scars that covered her body. Some were big, like the scar across her abdomen she got from a fight with Aquildama Morningstar, and the burn scars along her right arm that she got during one of the many failures that led to the Noctis. And some were small, like the knife cut along her index finger she got from trying to cook spaghetti with Alexander. So they go from talking about the big battle scars to small little scars that she got when she was trying to cook food, which is an interesting little storytelling of the article. There's lots of information and lots of lore about the character. Few staple accessories. I think it's staple, but it says staple accidentally, but to be expected. Some minor errors. She's known for wearing a golden snake bracelet that her sister wore the day she died, and her parents' wedding rings. Wow. She has a lot of things. A silver scimitar that had a golden handle that had wolf-like detailed engraved into it. Engraved along the blade were the words, "Reasoning and wisdom must always prevail." She named the sword Caitlin. The sword is hung up on the wall of the director's office in Chrysanthemum, Black Roses HQ. Deathly Rebel says you can just read the personal history. Alright, cool. This is still quite long, but we will see about the personal history. Kira Grace was born on April 15, 2006 to Charlotte and Dean Grace, and is their youngest daughter. Kira and her sister Caitlin lived very happy lives with their parents until they were 5 and 10, respectively, when their parents were brutally murdered in front of them by a woman named Midnight Hellfire, a former Disney star turned pop singer who would later be known as Aquildama Morningstar. Whoa, okay. I did not expect a Disney star to pop up into this chat, but interesting world. For the next 5 years, Kira and Caitlin would live with their maternal aunt, Tina Black, in a small town upstate New York called Arcadia Pine. Tina Black was very abusive towards them, and while Caitlin protected her young sister from most of the abuse, she wasn't able to protect her from all of it. Sadly, Caitlin Grace would kill herself by jumping from a bridge. Oh man. When the police went back to Black's home on the outskirts of town, they found her dead at the hands of an unknown assailant. To this day, no one knows who killed her. Caitlin had dropped her sister off at a friend's house after she picked her up from school and had been seen wandering the town by many eyewitnesses before heading straight to the bridge. Kira was sent to live with her other maternal aunt, Lotus Loveheart, whose house had become something of a halfway house for orphans, having taken her cousins Tessa Deathly's children after her untimely death just 5 years before. One of Tessa's children, Rebel Deathly, later said to the police when they had asked if she ever met Caitlin that she had earlier that day at an arcade downtown. This was the first and last time these two had ever met. Kira would be sent to go to the same school that her cousins went to by her aunt Octavia's School of the Gifted, which she graduated from in 2024. During her time at OSG, she met what would later become her partner on Project Noctis, Alexander Noctis, who was the best friend of her cousin Rebel's boyfriend Jason Van Helsing. When the two met, Alexander had been working as an intern at Roman, government organization that performed cruel experiments on kidnapped children, though he did not know this at the time due to how secretive the organization was. It wasn't until Alexander and later Kira befriended a girl named Octavia Jones, one of the many children that Roman had experimented on. They realized what Roman really was. After Octavia took down Roman in the year 2020, Kira and Alexander began to study the work of John Mercy, Dr. John Mercy, the head scientist, I think it's a slight error, at Roman, around the same time the war revelation had begun. It wasn't until 2030 that Kira and Alexander would begin testing out the theories they had regarding Dr. Mercy's research. And it wasn't until 2035 that they would complete their experiment and create the Noctis. In 2040, Kira would create the Black Roses and the Academies, organizations tasked with the goal of protecting the people and teaching the next generations, respectively. Kira and Alexander pushed for the Black Roses' independence as its own thing, separate from the governments of the world, in order to be more of use to humanity as a whole, and to make sure that no government could use the Black Roses as leverage against another nation. There was, of course, caused some pushback headed by the U.S., but in the end, they won, and the Black Roses were free to operate in any way they saw fit. Dr. Kira Grace served the director of the Black Roses until her retirement in 2070. Kira Grace lived a very happy life from then on out until her death in 2093. So it feels like this is probably like a world that's like our world, but kind of futuristic. So I was noticing that quite a lot of these characters had futuristic birthdays and stuff like that. Well, this one in particular is set kind of in our world, but in like a different dimension of our world, probably. Some of the characters, though, have different, time scales and time calendars altogether. They're not in our world, but this one seems like it is kind of like more like it's in our world. But a futuristic kind of, almost dystopian kind of our worlds, maybe. Let's see, likes and dislikes: strawberries, grapes, art, music, researching, reading, journaling, pottery, the nighttime, stars, space, magic, chess. Dislikes: violence, blood, chaos, failure, coffee, alcohol, and loud noises. I would think a lot also, this is one of the annoying things that a lot of Ambalites do have a problem with. When they do fill out these relationships, they are so long and they are just in the main body of the text, and people have asked to get this moved or something like that. This is very annoying, the relationships being stuck here. But other than those relationships being stuck here, still the body is quite long without that. I would suggest either adding something to the sidebar here, or either there's another thing that I did. There is something called, let's see. There's something called the sticky sidebar that I've been talking about. And if you do have access to CSS, you see how this body text keeps moving, but this sidebar will not move until the end of this text. So even though the sidebar is short, it's not going to move, and it's not going to show like a blank naked spot right here. So if you would like to do that, that's an interesting way to keep this even without having to spread it too far down. But there's also other ways that you can spread it down. I see that there's like lots of article blocks that you can add to the sidebar. You can add, Caitlin's article. You can add Charlotte's article. You can add the Black Roses. You can add Octavius Ghoul, the Rebel Deathly, John Mercy. You can put all of these kinds of things in the sidebar here in article blocks, not just like the words, but the article block, so that it can be like a bigger block with the picture and the words, and so that it can kind of extend the sidebar down. And then also stuff like likes and dislikes, you can throw that in the sidebar instead of it being in the main body and taking up that space there. You can kind of just do that to make it even. But like I said, this is just one of my own personal peeves, that when the sidebar is shorter than the body of the text, it's kind of weird to me. So those are just some suggestions if you would like to extend the sidebar out. But if not, no problem. This does have a lot to go over. Interesting character, interesting storytelling, and thank you so much for sharing that article. And then the other thing was just to credit the art, because I did not see a crediting for the art. But yeah, other than that, thank you so much for sharing that article. Very interesting and something that we should go read a little bit more on when we have more time. So that's why I put the link in the chat if you guys would like to check it out. If anybody else is here and would like me to read their article, please do redeem a read my article, please, and I will try to get to it. In the meantime, we will go over another character of an author who is not able to be present. This is Tatiana by Steerpike. And I will place that in the chat. Fae Queen, aka the Fae Queen. And this is quite a short article. Queen Tatiana of the Fae Court, also known as the Fae Queen, arrived on Eudinia with the rest of the Fae Court at the start of the Fae Age. The well-respected consort of King Oberon, Tatiana has plenty of power of her own as the head of the Spring Court. Of all four Fae Court rulers, she is the most difficult to deal with. While mostly benevolent, she is not above using trickery and manipulation in getting people to do what is required. Like most denizens of the Spring and Summer Courts, she can't lie, though she is said to rarely tell the truth. So it's interesting that, of course, if you can't lie, you can still not tell the full truth. So I see that she uses that to her advantage. Often seen tall, beautiful, young elven woman from the Feywild, she quite often shapeshifts into a younger version of herself, either a child or teen, depending on what the situation requires. Whatever form she's in, Tatiana has a long, bright auburn hair and emerald green eyes. She often wears an intricate green and gold dress. With this dress, she wears various necklaces with jewels. Atop her head is a silvery headpiece in the shape of leaves around a rose. When appearing to others via astral projection, to others she often wears a white dress. Growing up among the Eldrin elves of the Feywild, Tatiana was well educated in the ways of nature, magic, and music. She was a prodigy, specifically at magic. Capable of a large number of magical abilities, Tatiana, on top of the normal Fey magics, she has the normal charm, illusion, and trickster abilities of her Fey subjects. Her status as a protector of nature also grants her druidic magic based on plants and life. Tatiana is also capable of minor telepathy, astral projection, and scrying from her elven heritage. So then they have her green eyes, long flowing auburn hair. She's 5'10", pale flawless skin, and several thousand years old, I assume. So this is an interesting, she's an elf. There isn't any art, but if you could just add maybe a little art or a little quote or a little article block to something, just to that sidebar is almost there, just almost there. But yeah, just needs one little thing in the sidebar to make it even, and that will be it. But thank you for sharing this interesting character. And while the article is short and to the point, it told in a nice story that was easy to follow, and it gave me a lot of insight to the character. If you are in the chat and you would like me to read your article, please do let me know by redeeming a read my article, please, with one wisp. In the meantime, we are going over to Jester with Aurelius the Wise. Aurelius the Wise. If I am mispronouncing anything, please feel free to let me know in the future. If you guys are not in the chat present, let me know in the future. I should have been using strike through, shouldn't I have? Never mind. We will see this character. Aurelius the Wise. Impertrator. Aurelius, son of Varus, aka the Wise, Spear of Vatia. Now, this is a nice looking world with nice looking art, and this font is nice, but So, sometimes different fonts make it a bit hard to read what it says, but I should be able to do just fine. Before House Aurelius ruled over us, there was one man who bared that name, who would guide our people from the darkness and reforge us into the power we are today. So already I see that this article is being narrated by a person who is of the people who are being ruled by House Aurelius, and there is a link to that so that we can know what that is. I would suggest also maybe putting an article block in the sidebar to it so that we can extend this sidebar a bit out. Let's see. Aurelius is considered to be one of the greatest leaders that the Vatians had ever seen, as his efforts would turn the small city-state of Vatia into a powerful growing nation and would reorganize the military, in which would later become the legions of both the Kingdom of Vatia and later Vatian Empire, through his own book known as the Codex Legionis, that would create the first real military force in the Western lands. His countless campaigns and strategic mind would defend Vatia from invasion and conquer many neighboring lands to grow its power. Much of his early life records have been lost due to the sacking of Vatia, which only his later life being left to remember him by. Still, his military career and influence over the city would make him into one of the most powerful men in it, and he would use it to serve his people so they could prosper in a world of war and savagery. So already I do see a couple of instances where you can grab these links here and put them into article blocks to help to extend the sidebar. Many of his exploits are told through chroniclers, as he fought to serve his people and crush all those who dared to oppose him. Very few could rival his genius, as he brought wild lands into the control of the city for its population to expand. While he was not fighting, he spread a philosophical view on his beliefs that his people should be, and many would listen to him, with many of these views being held today by present-day Vatians, making him loved by his men and his people, and as he brought them victory and wealth that they had never achieved, ensuring they were rewarded with land to live on and slaves to serve them as he continued to expand the city's borders. Eventually, he would retire from his military campaigns and serve as a city leader to improve life at home and ensure that all were given fair rights. I think that they mean fair rights. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, so rise of an empire. Aurelius would not be without enemies far and close to home, as his popularity grew for every victory he gained. But his disgust for the rich and power was not a secret, as they abused their power to benefit themselves while the people suffered. With his position as imperator, he would use his power to reform the city's government that would lead the upper class to despise them and plan for his death, and they would do so while he was on the city council and unarmed. Many would draw daggers and begin to stab him, but to their surprise he fought back ferociously, killing many with his bare hand and arming himself with one of their daggers. Oh man, wow. So he defended himself until the rest of them finally fled, and despite his wounds, he went after them, trying to stop them from escaping and to pay for this betrayal. But he eventually realized that his injuries were fatal and were not long for this world, and collapsed in the hall. He would soon see his son Laius at his side, rushing in to help his father, but even he knew it was too late for him. He made his son vow to save the city from the tyrants that ruled over it, and died satisfied knowing that his son would succeed. Oh man, so that was quite a death, but he did, his son proclaimed victory and helped to name the house after his father, and the kingdom was founded, and yeah, so that was quite a quick end for him. But his legacy did live on. So, interesting article. Thank you for sharing. This art is interesting as well. I'm wondering what this art is. I don't see credit. No, do I? Yes. Cover image War Hero by Murat Gul. So yes, that's good. There are credits to art. Thank you so much, Jester, for crediting the art and for sharing the article. Next we have Helin Silma with the article Tanai. And as I said, if you are in the chat and you would like me to read your Great Leader of Their People article, please let me know. Cheery Panda is here. Hi! Hello, Cheery Panda. Thank you for joining me. We've been just going through some more great leaders of their people, and I should be leaving in a moment, but we're getting through a couple of more articles. This one is called Helin Silma. Tari Helin Silma, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, of course. Queen of the Ancient Kingdom of the Forest during the Greenskin invasion and the return of the Vampire Lords. Alrighty, interesting. This world has vampires. Helin is one of the most revered leaders in the history of the Kingdom of the Forest. Her diplomatic and military successes are the standard against which all later monarchs are measured. However, she was not as popular during her reign, as the people blamed her for the numerous threats they faced regardless of whether she had any control over them or not. As the second elven monarch to have her successes and failures recorded in writing, Helin knew she would not be able to escape comparisons with her father. Almost as soon as she had taken the throne, she was faced with invasion from Trim. The High Council had gotten into a habit of debating every issue for weeks in the hope that the problem would go away or be solved by someone else. In this case, they were right. In what was to become a feature of her reign, Helin took swift and decisive action, leading a portion of her forces to drive back the invaders and deliver a message to the Emperor of Trim. When the Greenskin invasion, and there's a link to it, started, the High Council once again elected to spend months debating what should be done. While the debate raged, Helin sent additional forces to the northwestern edge of the forest and quietly arranged for discussions with Clan Magranor around how they could help each other. As the invasion progressed and the four lands to the west of the forest continued to fight each other as much as the Greenskins, Helin took it upon herself to broker an alliance to deal with the larger threat. Months spent traveling to negotiate in person paid off, and the alliance drove back the orc and goblin invaders. While lauded as a savior by the lands outside of the forest, many in her own country disliked the fact that elves, doesn't mean elves, had been sent to defend the short-lived races. Following the end of the invasion, Helin's next big contribution was setting up the Grove of Dancing Mines. Interesting. There's a link to that. Impressed by the training given to officers in Trim, Helin created the Grove as a place to train her own officers in different aspects of warfare and leadership. Accomplishments: defended her kingdom from invasion by the Empire of Trim, sent Kinjui Silver Petal soldiers and resources to help free and restore Xi'an, ordered the creation of the Grove of Dancing Mines, led the kingdom's response to the, and it looks like he started to tag an article, probably the Greenskin invasion, and led kingdom's response to the return of the Vampire Lords. Interesting. Short to the point article. We have the description: green eyes, long brown with yellow streaks, hair, 5'6". Quotes and catchphrases: decide, act, resolve, accept. Very short and to the point, even her quotes, which is interesting. If we don't want to add a portrait of her, maybe we can put some article blocks to the Grove of Dancing Mines and the Greenskin invasion, so that this little sidebar can just extend a little bit downwards and match with the body of the text. But otherwise, interesting article. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate that. Tanai. Cherry Panda says, I'm implementing some of your tips in a new article I'm making. I think I'm going to start making stub articles that all attach to a main article because I keep repeating info. Yes, that's another thing. Sometimes it's like you feel like, didn't I write this already? And then you realize it was all in another article. So, like, this is a true story. With this summer camp that that we just did, I actually thought that I wrote about a race of people, the Sunderwickians. I thought I already had a Sunderwickian article, when actually it was the Fergenhalt Woodsman article that I was talking a lot about the Sunderwickians in the Fergenhalt Woodsman article, and then that just made it where basically it was like, well, these people do this, but these people don't do that. So then I thought that I did the other article, and then I really didn't. So I was like, whatever. That's why, yeah, sometimes it's good to just make one article. If you notice you're doing a lot and repeating yourself a lot, what are you repeating? And if it's about a certain place or a certain, group of people, you can just make that article. And then when you feel like you want to talk about it in another article, just say, for more information, go here. And you don't have to say it like that. But you can say, they met with the so-and-so people, and then link them. So that it doesn't have to go into detail all about what the so-and-so people are, because you did have an article about them. That's a good thing. Cherry Panda says, Cherry Panda has contributed 560 to the Twitch party. Thank you for contributing to the Twitch party. Yes, so hopefully, if we reach our goal, we will have a fun stream where I do lots of random stuff on stream and just play games and do the things that you guys want me to do. So if you want to contribute to that, simply use the little wisps, which you acquire by watching my streams anyway. So it's not extra money or anything like that. It's just free. You just use those little wisps and you contribute them to the prize. Next we have Ruthren Ddraig Sy'n Ddu. Not sure how to pronounce that one. No. Okay. And this is by oncomingshower, which is an interesting username. Ruthren Ddraig Sy'n Ddu. Not sure if that's how we pronounce it, but I'm going with that for now. Ruthren Ddraig Sy'n Ddu, also known as Ruthren the Reaper, is one of the most famous military leaders in the history of Arasgoth. She ruled over Purgatory, the mercenary camp, from the age of 14 after killing the previous leader in a duel. She ruled for many years before coming into contact with the Beacons of Hope and joining them in their effort to protect the continent from Rudyard and the darkness. After the union of the kingdom, she moved Purgatory to New Purgatory and set about making them the biggest military force in Arasgoth, alongside her now husband Emrys Ddraig Sy'n Ddu. So this one is an interesting one. The article isn't too long, but I do see that the sidebar is quite long. This is some nice, interesting art. I wonder if it is credited. All headers and cover art made with Canva. Custom portraits created at World Spinner using either the Portrait Workshop or the Heraldry Editor. Alright, great. There's a little family tree here. And there's not a way to zoom out. Hold on. Alright, this one. There we go. Oh no, it did it again. Never mind. Okay, I see. So we have their parents, spouse, her parents-in-law, and then their children, Alice and Mirrodin. Not sure. Alright, so this is very interesting. there's not really a description of the character, but we see her right here. Ruthren was born the only child of 2 mercenaries that had been working in Egomont. Her mother died in childbirth, and her father abandoned her to purgatory to be looked after. She never heard from or saw him again, presuming he was killed for running away from the mercenaries. She grew up as well cared for as she could be in a mercenary camp and learned how to fend for herself from a young age. She showed physical prowess, but writing and reading long escaped her. By age 12, she had made her way through the ranks to secure a high spot amongst the mercenaries and soon realized that this wasn't what she wanted, nor did most of the mercenaries in the group. At 14, she used all the money she had saved to buy herself an enchanted scythe and challenged the current leader to a duel to free the mercenaries from the constant assassin work they were forced into. The man agreed, and the duel was bloody, with Ruthren coming out on top. Aw, drat. Well, quite graphic. But she won. By 24, she had established them as a good band of mercenaries and helped to protect the market of Egomont from any criminal activity. She wanted to make them officially guards, but no one in leadership was willing to take her seriously. This was around the time she met Empress and the rest of the Beacons of Hope. After some misunderstandings and unfortunate deaths, she agreed to help them in their efforts to save the world, and that Purgatory would stand with them in the final battle. As time progressed, Ruthren became closer to Empress and started to build a more intimate relationship with him, something she had never planned on doing. The two eventually entered a romantic relationship and ended up adopting Alice, an orphan that Empress and the rest of the Beacons of Hope had saved. By the end of the Union of the Kingdoms, Empress and Ruthren were both official leaders of the Purgatory and cohabitating the settlement together. They both worked to move Purgatory into what is now New Purgatory, setting it up to be a stronghold of soldiers and safety. They helped make the biggest army in Ruthren together before starting a family. They had one son together, Ruthren Ddraig, half human, half dragonborn, which had never been seen in Ruthren before, so it came with some complications during the pregnancy and subsequent birth. Many years later, both Empress and Ruthren realized that life was coming to an end for them around the age of 80. They said their goodbyes to all that knew them, gave the title of warlord to their son, and disappeared off the continent. They were never found or heard from again. Interesting and mysterious. So yes, interesting article, interesting character, interesting story. And like I said, this one, unfortunately, the sidebar is quite long, longer than the body of the text. In this case, I would suggest that maybe you take some of these relevant articles and put them in a full-length footer. So, like if we were to put them in a full-length footer, then there will just be a little bit here, and then all across the page here would just be the linked articles. You might want to put like this one, like right under here. And then the rest of them are in a full-length footer so that they don't extend the sidebar down past the actual, body of the text. But other than that, very interesting, and thank you so much for sharing that character. Let's see. I think we have time for a couple more. There's Queen Valeria de Sarix by Tyburn. If you have an article and you are lurking in the chat and you would like me to read your article, please do let me know by speaking up and telling me that you have an article by redeeming a read my article please from the chat. And it only costs one little wisp. And the only reason why I ask you to use a wisp is so that I can take you into the queue and make sure that I'm not skipping over anybody. Interesting art already. Stained glass. I like the stained glass style. And, is it credited? Cover art, yes. Cover art by Poisoned Paper. Interesting name, by the way. So let's see. This is a very short article. Queen Valeria de Sarix. Queen Valeria de Sarix ascended to the throne of Mournstone almost a decade ago after her father, Silvius The third passed away unexpectedly. A bright young woman, the newly minted queen, quickly gained a reputation for efficiency and interest in all matters martial. She has expanded the nation's already prodigious royal fleet and is now investing in the army as well. She's 34 years old, azure eyes, long auburn hair, bronze skin. By reputation, the queen is quick to laugh and sharp of wit, with an easy grace that allows her to manage the royal court at her manor, the House of the Seven. Interestingly, she has only a few close companions. These are men and women that she has known since childhood, the children of some of the more prominent nobles of the realm. Since ascending to the throne, she has seemingly been more reticent to establish new relationships, preferring to keep her courtiers at a distance. Compounding her aloofness is her unwillingness to get married and produce an heir to the throne. While she has had few discreet dalliances, none have resulted in offspring. When delicately asked, more courtiers receive only a withering glance. Those very close to her are aware that she favors her younger sister Gala as a successor, and has clearly defined this in her will. Preferring not to spur her ambitious sister into foolish plotting, however, she has mostly kept this to herself. Recent endeavors, the discovery of the continent of Tal in Nalia, has spurred many of the nations of western Tal, Helin, into action. The queen has taken steps to make sure that Mornstone does not fall behind in this regard. She personally funds expeditions, most recently one to establish a new settlement on the Tal Nalian mainland. So once again, a very interesting article, very short to the point. It was interestingly written as well, very story-like. I would say there's no portrait of her. If there was a portrait, it would probably make this very even. But since there's not a portrait, it's okay. There is a description, but we would probably just want like an article block or two, because there's not a link to anything in this article, but that's understandable. Summer camp is quite, busy. And we're always thinking about putting words in the page, and we're not thinking about linking things immediately. But maybe just put some article blocks or some art here, or a quote or two, and that sidebar will be great. As Cherry Panda says, the art is really good. Yes, it is. This is a very interesting art, and I'm so glad that you credited it. I like it. I love the stained glass style. Very mesmerizing. So thank you so much again to Tyburn for allowing us to read your article on stream. Next we have Radiant Prelate Mathaera Dolan, I believe. And this is by scholarmage. And I have a note here that there's a pic in the comment because scholarmage did not want to edit the article prematurely. So instead, they wanted to make sure they put the picture of the character in the comments of the article so that they can remember to place it in there when it is time, the editing time is up. So this is another very short and to the point article, and see how the sidebar has absolutely nothing in it. It would be great to maybe put the art there, or put some, I see there's already some links to other articles and stuff, put a few article blocks just over there, and then that will be all set to go. But yes, this is where they put the art, and this is some captivating art, and it is credited, which is awesome. Portrait of Mathaera Dolan by Nathan Turner. Interesting. And this character, I like the art. So I could imagine it right here. Mathaera. Mathaera is how you pronounce it. Mathaera Dolan. Okay. Mathaera Dolan is the radiant prelate of the Church of Sunprian, based in Teleria, and works tirelessly to further the church's aims and those in need. Further the church's aims, aid those in need, and grow the nation of Pyria. The prelate is in her early 50s and is utterly dedicated to her faith in the church, selflessly devoted in her worship of her deity. In return, Sun Pyrian has granted her immense magical power, and assassination attempts by enemies of the church, notably the Links of Tyrannix, and there's a link to that, have revealed the Celestials invisibly stand watch over her. The formal title of the Radiant Prelate is to address them as Radiants, and Dolan is also entitled Defender of the Faith and Light of the Great Flame in recognition of her role leading the Church of Sumprian and serving as the mortal representative of Sumprian himself. Her robes of office consist of yellow and red silk underrobes with layers of swirling semi-transparent silks and gauzes billowing over the top like flames. Instead, Mathaera commonly wears far simpler robes as she goes about the business of the church and her people, and is not unknown for new ambassadors to Pyria to mistake her for one of her secretaries. When she focuses her attention on them, they are quick to abandon that idea. Dolan serves as a member of the Council of 11, the council which oversees all Pyrian affairs and directs the course of the realm. She has been noted for her dedication to the well-being of her people, both individually and as a nation, and it is not unknown for her to make time to meet a single humble Pyrian missionary before they depart, so she can bless them and gift them with a set of Pyrian made silk robes to protect them on their travels. The people know of Dolan's devotion to them and return it in equal measure. When she is scheduled to preach the sermon at the Grand Cathedral on a holy day or special holiday, the crowds that turn out to see her are immense, and the cheers from a near solid wall of sound. That's interesting. Interesting character. Cheery Panda says, very powerful. Yes. Very powerful, graceful character who seems very humble still. So yes, very short to the point, but her personality comes across well in this article. I like how there's links to everything that we want to learn more about. There's pronunciation guide, which is awesome. And then this art, of course, will be added, which will be awesome. And then maybe just one article block under the art, or one quote from her, maybe. And this article will be nice and neat and packaged up. So thanks once again to scholarmage for sharing that article with us. I think that we might have one more time for one more article. If you are lurking in the chat and you want me to read one of your articles, I'm probably about to go in just a moment. So please speak now, or hold your peace until next Monday, or this Monday coming up, because I'm not going to stream on the weekends. I'm too busy. Unfortunately, I will not be streaming tomorrow, but I do plan to stream on Monday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and again at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Not on Saturday, not on Sunday, but on Monday and on Tuesday. I believe that the final date for this is Wednesday, because that is the time when I am supposed to turn in who I think should win. And right now, as you see, I'm like at 121, and there are 325. So some of these, of course, I'm probably just going to have to read off stream, but I'm trying to read as many on stream that I have permission to read as I can. So a lot of these did tell me that I had permission to stream them, but then these here, from 217 downwards, did not respond. So I'm not going to read theirs on stream because I don't have permission. So my goal here is to stream everybody that I have permission to stream, at least on stream, and then I'll just take care of reading the rest of those in my spare time off stream. But thanks to everybody who has been so far hanging out with me in the chat, sharing their articles, and joining me as I read 325 of these great leaders. And a lot of you have had some awesome art. This is even a photograph here. I sometimes use photographs as well. I wonder who took this photograph. I personally do take all the photographs that I use, but it's important to credit art. So we will see what Zimili has done. Cover image, Castle in Front of Trees by Mateus Campos Felipe. So yes, it is properly credited. Awesome. And this looks like it's a picture of the school, so pretty nice. Let's see. It's Farsight High School world, so I figured that that's probably the whole world centered around this high school. Already I do see that the sidebar is not filled up at all. So one of the things that I like to say is maybe you can just like delete the sidebar, and that's an easy thing to do, is just hide the sidebar, override the sidebar to go away. Or something you can easily do is add some article blocks in here, or some quotes from the person, just to fill up the sidebar to make it not just a big wall of text. But let's read this. It's quite short, so we'll see what it has to say. The Everlight Guild has seen a few guildmasters since its origin, all of them lauded for their deeds. The Goliath Guildmaster Lavoy Lo-Eye stepped down in 236 after joining the Guardians of the Sacred Flame to help protect the shifters of the Umsitu tribes of the War of Flames. He passed down the title to his adopted son. Back then, he went by the identity of Aran, a black dragonborn. However, while he himself attempted to keep his true identity secret for several decades longer, nearly all of the Inner Circle, and even some people beyond it, would come to realize that Aran was actually a young black dragon. Hatched to the name Alvaro, he was raised by Lavoy to value adventurous virtues and to care for members of the guild, citizens of Hereford, and anyone else he considered in his charge. In fear of being shunned by Concordians, or even the other guild members, they attempted to hide the truth from others, failing spectacularly. Nice wording. Alvaro first revealed himself in his draconic form when the Guardians of the Sacred Flame threatened to forcefully conscript the free citizens of Hereford. He protected the city by fending off the approaching battalion before it could even reach the walls. After this, Alvaro was dubbed the Shadow of the Everlight, and the guild was left in peace. Alvaro was feared by many, but made enough allies to remain a prominent figure in Concordia. Over the decades, he proved time and time again that he was a reasonable opponent, a reliable ally, and an excellent leader. He protected Saint Seraphine, one of the paragons of Peria, on her pilgrimage to the lake. When she took ill and died before reaching her artifact, he escorted the artifact along with her retinue back to Port Libera to find the next matriarch. He oversaw the construction of the Lo-Eye Dam and the expansion of the Hereford to house thousands of refugees. In the Second Concordian Grecian War, he called together a war council of Concordia's most influential factions, which had before then seen much conflict. Time and time again, he refused the position of governor to the Hereford province, instead preferring to remain guildmaster to the Everlight Guild and later headmaster to the Everlight Academy. He has protected and provided for his guild well and remains its stalwart leader to this day. So, interesting character. I think that another thing that you can add to the sidebar is a description of him, because we don't have a picture, but it's okay if you just let us know, like his eye color, hair color, if he has hair, you know, things like that are great to just throw into the sidebar. I can tell this was probably kind of rushed, considering summer camp. A lot of articles are rushed, but there's like absolutely no links to any other things that we would like to know about. So like, I would love to know about these Guardians of the Sacred Flame. I would love to know about Lavoy more, the Everlight Guild more. So when you do get a chance, I mean, not right now, of course, no editing right now, but I'm saying things to think about is to maybe link some of these things, you know, and maybe even just put some of the article blocks in the sidebar. And if those articles are not done yet, that's fine too. I understand. If you wanted to link them, but they weren't done yet, understandable. But thank you so much for sharing this article. This world seems very interesting, and the character seems very interesting. So that would be something that I would like to read more about. So that is the final article, I believe, for this evening or morning, wherever you are in your time zone. I appreciate everybody who stopped by, everybody who contributed to the goal, everybody who shared their articles to be read. Thank you so much to all of you guys who are lurking, watching in the future, and also those who are in the chat, who have chatted. Thank you so much again to each and every one of you. And I do bid thee a good day, good evening, good night, whatever you are, wherever you are. Happy time zone to you. So God bless, and have an awesomely wonderful, spectacularly blessed weekend, because I will not be streaming, as I said, tomorrow, but I do plan to come back again Monday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and again Monday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for some more of these, and I will have quite a lot to get through. So thank you so much once more. I cannot say thank you enough. And have a blessed one. God bless you guys, and goodbye. Thanks for joining me.